pamādamanuyuñjetha, kāmaratisanthavaṃ, Appamatto jhāyanto, pappoti vipulaṃ sukhaṃ. So we're going to adopt a new Pali policy, so to speak. We're going to go ahead and write out a rough translation of this. That way, if you're just interested in the meaning and meditating on the meaning and thinking about contemplating the meaning, then you'll be good to go, and you won't have to wade through all the Pali syntax grammar to get there. So here we go. And apologies up front for my lack of typing skills and spelling. Don't give yourselves over to carelessness or to sensual pleasure. Now we'll talk more about that. This second part especially is a little more loose, but it, I think, accurately conveys the meaning. Indeed, the diligent meditator or meditating person obtains abundant happiness. Okay, so now we will get into the weeds of the Pali. This obviously follows right on the heels of verse 26, where the foolish, ignorant people are described as giving themselves over to pamādaṃ, to carelessness. And here we are exhorted not to do that with this imperative here. So in this second word, the only thing that's changed is the ending of the verb. And as I was just saying, it's second person plural imperative. And with imperatives, instead of the more normal na, we will expect this particle ma. Don't give yourselves over to pamādaṃ. And as we said before, it's really pamādaṃ, but the ending of this word is undergoing sandhi, or a sound change, because this next word starts with a vowel. So pamādaṃ anu is a lot easier to say. All right, now in the second gatha, we see a ma again, but there's actually no verb. So we would just have to understand the same verb. Don't give yourself over to carelessness. Don't, understood, give yourselves over to. And that's why I just didn't write it out again down here. So you can see when people commit to written out translations that things like this happen. Don't give yourselves over to. And then we have this long compound here. And I did want to make a note that this is a situation where knowing what the compound is, or analyzing it a little, helps us understand it better. So, and we don't want to get too much in the weeds, but there is this agreed upon terminology that native grammarians have used for millennia. So we will kind of stick with that. We have kāmaratisanthavaṃ, and it really breaks apart into three different words. Kāma, as in Kama Sutta in Pali. Rati, which is not rati, night. This is rati, which has to do with love, attachment, pleasure. And santhavaṃ means something like intimacy or acquaintance. And the way I'm understanding this is that overall we have kāmarati and santhavaṃ. Now, kāmarati is its own compound, but we're setting that to the side for just a minute. And we're saying that santhavaṃ is relating to kāmarati as a tappurisa. And what that means is that the case ending of this word has been obscured. It's not the same as santhavaṃ. So we're saying that, or I think the understanding here is that don't give yourselves over to kind of understood being an acquaintance or being acquainted with or being an acquaintance of kāmarati. So if this weren't a compound, the ending would probably be something like that. Kāmaratiya. This would be the, that would be the genitive or dative. And actually that is almost everything except the accusative and nominative. And the locative sometimes could have an at the end. I think it'd be a short a. So in other words, what we're saying is don't become acquainted with whatever this is. That's the tappurisa part. And then in here, let's get this back. I'm taking this as a dvanda, meaning that actually it would also be like kāmasa and kāmasa cha ratiya cha. Don't give yourselves over to attachment and pleasure or something like that. You could probably take these together as just sensual pleasure. And actually, I should say, it really, in that case, this is more of a kāmarati maybe, that we're kind of using one of these as another, as modifying the other, almost like an adjective. But anyway, those are some of like the little nuances that are involved, because otherwise, I mean, you could try to understand this as don't give yourselves over to intimacy and or like, in other words, don't give yourselves over to a list of 3 things that have been put together, to intimacy or to sensual pleasure. There, I made it 2 things. To intimacy, to attachment, to pleasure, something like that. But I think it really has more to do with don't become acquainted with, distance yourself from kāmarati. So I hope I haven't destroyed all of the pleasure we might take in understanding this verse. I'll go on now. Now, in this third gata, the second line, this he, which is, I will say, I'm 100% sure, almost, that he always comes second. We can put it first. Indeed, it's this emphatic kind of particle. And then we have Appamatto. So this is not the same thing as we had back here, Appamada, or Appamadaṃ, or Appamatto. There it's a noun. Here it's an adjective, the careful person. And then not only is it a person, we have another little specification here. Jhāyanto is a meditating person. So this is a masculine nominative singular participle from, I wrote it down here, jhāyati, to meditate. And that came up in verse 23, I think. I'm not sure what the verse was, but it's if we didn't take these big breaks, it would still be in our memory. It would still be in our ears. So the diligent meditating person. And this is really nice. And really, this verse, I'd have to say, is pretty straightforward, apart from having to disentangle this compound. We just get a third person singular present active indicative verb, pappoti, which means to obtain or get, receive. So, and the subject of this verb is this person right here. The diligent meditating person obtains, gets, receives. And then we could, if we look at these 2 words, I mean, the one that might stick out first is sukhaṃ, the opposite of, or sukha, the opposite of dukkha. Here it's in the accusative singular. So it's the object, it's what's being obtained, obtains happiness. And then, we might not know, we might even think this could be another noun, but it's actually an adjective here. Vipulaṃ is large. I put large, extensive, great, abundant, receives abundant happiness. And I just wanted to make a note down here that the happiness that's being received is coming from within.